In the year 1171, the Ayyubid state, founded in Egypt by Saladin, gave the people they brought under their rule from the Oghuz and Kipchak Turks the name Mamluk instead of slave, and employed them in various services, primarily in the military. The Greeks mostly served as commanders in the Ayyubid state for a long time. When the Ayyubid ruler al-Malik al-Salih died, his son was killed and no heir remained to the throne. Therefore, al-Malik al-Salih's wife, Shajar al-Dur, was declared ruler. At this time, the reins passed into the hands of Aybeg, a Mamluk of Turkish origin. Aybeg ended the Ayyubid rule in Egypt and founded his own state, which has since been known in history as the Mamluk state. Before the time of Mehmed the Conqueror, relations between the Ottomans and the Mamluks in Egypt continued in a very friendly manner. Due to the residence of the Abbasid Caliph in Egypt, the Ottomans accepted this state as the owner and servant of the sanctuaries of Mecca and Medina, expressed as the Haramain, and showed due respect. However, for the first time in 1459, a dispute arose between the Ottomans and the Mamluk state over the repair of water wells on the pilgrimage route. At that time, when a person returning from the pilgrimage reported that pilgrims suffered greatly because these wells had fallen into disrepair, Mehmed the Conqueror sent an envoy to Egypt and requested permission to repair them. The Mamluks regarded this request as interference in their internal affairs. Moreover, they not only rejected the proposal, but also treated the Ottoman envoy badly. Mehmed the Conqueror was deeply saddened by the rejection of his request and the mistreatment of his envoy. After the Karamanids and the Aq Qoyunlu were eliminated, the Ottoman state became a neighbor to the Mamluks. This was because the Dulkadirid Principality, which acted as a buffer between the two states, was under Mamluk protection. However, since the lands of this principality were part of Anatolia and its people were pure Turkmen, it was a place that should be included in Ottoman rule for both geographical and human reasons. From the moment the Ottomans began to press into this area, the Mamluks became uneasy, and thus a rivalry and conflict emerged between the two states that would continue until Yavuz Sultan Selim conquered Egypt. The Ottomans were related by marriage to the Dulkadirids. Çelebi Sultan Mehmed had married the daughter of Suli Bey of the Dulkadirids. Likewise, Mehmed the Conqueror had married Siti Hatun, the daughter of Suleiman Bey, the ruler of the same principality. For this reason, the Ottomans considered it their right to intervene in events within the Dulkadirid Principality. After the death of Suleiman Bey, a struggle for the throne broke out in the Dulkadirid Principality. At the end of this conflict, Melik Arslan Bey became the ruler. However, at that time, the Aq Qoyunlu ruler Uzun Hasan attacked the Dulkadirid Principality. Melik Arslan went to Egypt to seek help against Uzun Hasan. However, his brother Shah Budak, with whom he had previously fought for the throne, was there. Shah Budak found an opportunity and had his brother Melik Arslan killed there. With the support of the Mamluks, he became the ruler of the Dulkadirid Principality. However, when he returned, the Turkmen Beys did not approve of this fratricide and sent a request to Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror for their other brother, Shesuvar Bey, to become ruler. Since Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror did not find it appropriate for the Dulkadirid Principality to remain under Mamluk tutelage, in 1465 he appointed Shesuvar Bey as ruler by giving him a number of troops. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror sent letters to the Turkmen Beys instructing them to obey Shesuvar Bey and also warned the Mamluks to accept him. However, the Mamluks ignored this warning and continued to support Shah Budak. They sent an army against Shesuvar Bey in order to restore Shah Budak to the throne. In response, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror sent support to Shesuvar Bey. Thus, the Mamluks were defeated. Unable to risk a confrontation with the Ottomans, the Mamluk ruler Kushkadam sent envoys to Istanbul, bearing gifts to Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. In return, Sultan Mehmed also sent an envoy to the Mamluks. In his letter, he addressed him as Hadim al-Haramain, meaning servant of the two sanctuaries, and called him my brother, the Sultan of Egypt. Previously, Ottoman sultans had addressed Mamluk rulers as Sultan al-Haramain. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror set out on the Karaman campaign and ordered Shesuvar Bey to join the Ottoman army with part of his forces, but he did not comply and even took under his protection a fleeing Karamanid commander. For this reason, after warning him several times, Sultan Mehmed cut off his support. Upon learning of the situation, the Mamluk Sultan immediately gathered an army and attacked Shesuvar Bey. In 1471, Shesuvar Bey was defeated by Egyptian forces and killed. Thus, Shah Budak was once again placed at the head of the Dulkadirid Principality. Shah Budak's brother, Alawid Devlet Bozkurt Bey, who would later become the maternal grandfather of Yavuz Sultan Selim, wrote to Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror requesting support. Sultan Mehmed gave Alawid Devlet Bozkurt Bey some troops and ordered him to attack Shah Budak. In this battle, Alawid Devlet Bozkurt Bey was defeated but managed to escape. However, the heads of the captured Ottoman soldiers were cut off and sent to the Mamluk Sultan by the Mamluk commander. This incident was the last straw, and Ottoman-Mamluk tensions reached their peak. Sultan Mehmed then dispatched a large Ottoman force under Alauid Devlet and in 1480 completely took control of the Dulkadirid Principality. Thus, it became an emirate dependent on the Ottomans. In the spring of 1481, Sultan Mehmed gathered a massive army of approximately 300,000 men in Üsküdar. It was clear that this campaign was directed toward Anatolia. However, no one knew the exact target, as Mehmed the Conqueror kept it strictly secret. He would either march against the Aq Qoyunlu in Iran or against the Mamluks.